fewer managers, flatter organizations, smaller teams. But I also think the work is actually going to be more human and more people-centric and honestly more interesting.
Welcome to the Human Capitalist Podcast. I am Trent Cotton, your host and human capitalist. Ask yourself, is your HR organization future-proof? Well, we are going to dig into that very topic in this episode. In this podcast, we are going to tackle all of the topics that keep business owners and HR professionals up at night, from AI automation to transforming your workforce to meet the needs of the future. So if you have employees, you're going to want to follow along and take a lot of notes. So with that, buckle up, get ready. It's time to dig into this episode and transform you into a human capitalist. Let's go. Host, and today I have got someone that I've been dying to get on. She and I have talked a couple of times, so I am excited to actually get it recorded because I don't know, Jamie, sometimes whenever we talk, we don't need to be recorded, but this one's going to be a good one. But I wanted to tell just a funny story of kind of the first time that I spoke with Jamie. She was doing a webinar and I had her on. I didn't have it in my ears. I had it going through the computer, and my husband works from home too. And he kind of comes over and he says, "Who is she? She sounds like a badass." So, Miss Badass, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what you're doing.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I adore your husband. He obviously knows what he's talking about. So yes, I'm Jamie. I am the co-founder and co-CEO of Mento. We are a human and AI coaching platform. I am based in LA. So, part of the small group of us trying to build startups out here, small but mighty. And yeah, I thought that's me. Before starting Mento, I did a tour to Google, as I like to call it. I was at 6 different companies, which you can do when you work for a conglomerate, and was in, had a really amazing experience there, working on all sorts of business units, from Google Play to opening our first stores in Europe and in a job in London, and then ending my final tour of duty over there at a alphabet incubator called Jigsaw, where we were developing tools to tackle some of the biggest challenges on the internet. So it was an amazing experience, and all of that led me to starting Mento and now being here with you today. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, and for anyone that has not checked out Mento, they have fantastic content. I get a lot of newsletters, a lot of updates. You guys are kind of in that top 10 of whatever. I get something, I stop and I read it because there's always substance to it, and it's always a very unique insight. So definitely go check that out. All right, so let's kind of dive in. You've got a pretty unique skill set. So if you're looking at the world of human capital over the next 5 years, how is the workforce going to change over the next 5 years, in your opinion, based off of what you're seeing?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and I also want to hear your answer. But to kick it off, I think we don't even know exactly how it's going to change. I think we can guess and we can gander, but I think a lot of the trends, the pace of change is just absolutely rapid. I mean, to think about how we were working a few years ago to how we're working today, and we're only just getting started. I really feel that way. I think change is going to be the only norm. And I think some of the trends that we've been seeing, which of, smaller teams, like with AI, it is just true. Companies aren't going to need as many people. But there are also going to be new roles that emerge from that. Something we're even talking about at Mento. It's going to be flatter. Absolutely. I think there's going to be ways to extend managers and different types of people in an organization that simply does not exist today, because people are not extensible, though we have tried. And I think you'll have fewer managers, flatter organizations, smaller teams. But I also think the work is actually going to be more human and more people centric and honestly more interesting. Um, things are pretty mediocre. Like, I think there's a lot that's very enriching and super interesting about people's work today. We're tackling new challenges. We're working with new types of people. We're constantly being faced with new problems. Like, I think it's idea of someone like being bored right now is probably a lot less true than in the past. But we are also completely bogged down in menial work. And that sucks a lot of the creative time. I think everyone you speak to probably says something to the effect of, I'm in too many meetings. I spend too much time, dealing with things that have nothing that I manage. I spend more time managing projects than people. The state of managers, leadership, organizations is like completely broken. We depend on like a very relatively like few set of people to keep everyone else in the organization happy, motivated, engaged. So I think it's going to be very interesting, but I actually think it is going to be better. Like what's happening right now is not sustainable. I think there are periods of sustainability where people are like, okay, this is great. This is really good. Then it inevitably goes into, this is overwhelming. This is too much. How can I manage all of this? Given more responsibility, but that ends up being a lot more task oriented. It's not exactly, I think, the best way to live. I think it's hard. It's like kind of hard to have your cake and eat it too in the world of work. And it's volatile. Like, I just think there's just this expectation around volatility, high highs, low lows. And I don't really think that's like a way to live for any of us. So I think things will change dramatically and it will be for the better, but it's going to be deeply uncomfortable. And it's not going to be easy and straightforward along the way. So there's going to be a lot of mistakes as we're kind of trying to, build the plane as you fly it. No one really knows what this is going to look like, but everyone's going to be working with AI. AI will be very disruptive, but I also think we'll come out of it and people will spend more time with people and on work that really matters. And we'll look back and be like, that was a silly way to work when I was just like in I was like doing tasks all the time. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what do you think? What resonates with you? What doesn't?
It's funny you were talking about kind of looking back and going, how in the world did I ever work that way? That was silly. It was a couple of weeks ago. I was on, I think, 4 back-to-back calls, like different calls, but with one of my peers. And he and I joined early for the next one. And, I remember looking at him going, how in the world for so long did I go from conference room to conference room to conference room, like sometimes across campus, one, make it on
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And two, like, how in the world did I have so much weight? Like all I'm doing is just sitting here going click, 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 and I'm exhausted, just from the
Yes.
constant
Yes.
interaction. So, as far as have always been fascinated with AI. I'm actually working on like a keynote thing about the 7 deadly sins of HR in the age of AI. And
Yeah.
I was looking back and just really trying to figure out when did I just fall in love with it? And I don't know if you're old enough, but Knight Rider, do you remember Knight Rider? No? Okay, yeah, I'm old. So it was with what was it, David Hasselhoff, and it was this AI powered car that helped him become like a superhero investigator or whatever. And I was fascinated with it. And I remember whenever I was younger thinking maybe whenever I'm 70, there will be AI, somehow in my life. I never thought that in my 40s I would be seeing it. And, to your point, the rate at which it is changing is mind boggling.
Yeah.
Now I can't imagine doing some of the stuff that I do on a daily basis without AI. And it's only been, 18 months, 2 years at best,
Yeah.
that it's become kind of more mainstream.
Yeah.
So I do see the workforce is changing. We're going to have the most informed generation in the workforce if they're not already in there.
Mm.
And so I think it's really going to make businesses have to be a lot more transparent. To your point, validating the work. Is this meaningful work, or is this just something that we can outsource and automate and have it done better, quicker, and more
Yeah.
efficiently, and have the
Yeah.
human focus on the human?
Yeah.
So how do you think, I mean, if we talk about slow to change, I think
Yeah.
HR is probably one of
Yeah,
The best
right.
examples in business that they are most of the time they are just absolutely resistant to change. How do
Mm.
you see with the workforce changing? How do you see HR professionals needing to kind of evolve their skills?
It's a great question. What I think and what I hear and what I see is I think like every function that's like non-technical, quite honestly, like I think it's not just HR. It's whether you're right, maybe you would say traditional background as a marketer, like not technical, maybe ops isn't technical, maybe sales isn't technical, HR isn't technical, like, you know, every function is going to become more technical because you're going to be working with technology in a much more intuitive and customizable way. On one hand, the barrier to entry is going to be a lot lower. It was like, could you code or could you not? And that's a binary. The beauty of AI is that it almost creates like a new programming language that we all can use. There still is a skills gap and a usage gap because it does require the difference between myself and like an LLM programmer, right? Someone who really knows how to work with LLMs. They use it in every part of their job and everything that they do. They're obviously on the cutting edge, but they're probably like 10x more productive as a result. I'm probably like 1.5x right now, maybe two. But I would say there's also behavior changes that I've been able to make through my own use of AI that can't just be measured in terms of productivity. It's more of an efficacy question. So I think we'll all become more effective and more productive, maybe more impactful as a result. But that is the future. And that's where every function is going to go. Everyone's going to be working with AI in their work, not only on their skills and the functional part of their job, but also on the sort of the people and human component of their job. And so I think that is the world that we're going into. And I think we'll look back and I think that's like actually one of the most incredible things about AI is it basically enables everyone to have incredibly powerful technology at their fingertips in a way that traditional software just hasn't been able to do that. Yes, like, right, a marketer can learn how to use like HTML back in the day to create more designed emails. And there's obviously tools like Figma that have made that easier and accessible to people, but like you still kind of need to be a good designer.
Right.
Like there still is that gap. Designers on our team, they're working with LLMs. They need to be more technical. Like everyone is just going to be more technical. I just think our concept of technical is going to change and we're all going to be technical. So I don't think it's like unique to HR. I think it's going to be the same for everyone. What I feel about HR is it's less about the skills and more about I think we're going to head into a golden age of HR.
Okay.
Controversial. Interesting.
I'm here for it.
You can tell me what you think. But I think in general, HR just has been like very under-resourced and under-supported as a function within a business. It is responsible for the functioning of the business, functioning of the people, which at the core is sort of the entire premise of a business is getting a group of people to work toward common goals and innovate and grow. But what I really feel like has been missing from HR is there just hasn't been that much innovation. There's been like optimization, but not innovation. And that's not HR's fault. That's the technology, right? Like think about all of the different platforms that have gone into design and marketing and operations and sales. Like all the other functions have had a lot of innovation through technology and making it accessible. I just think HR has really been lagged behind in that way and has not been delivered the tools to like the biggest thing that's happened in HR maybe is like LinkedIn Learning, which I'm not sure we'd all write home about. Like it's not modern in any way, right?
Yeah.
So I
I
don't
was going to say you're
want
opening up a can of
but
that. We're just
but
going
it's
to
like
just
that's
let that
it,
go.
right? Like what else is happening? And like there was kind of this big people analytics push, but that's dependent on if you're deep in the space, it's like, okay, that's great. But then also the extraction of that data, that has always been still really challenging for HR folks. Like obviously AI is going to make that much easier and better. but then it also requires this idea of like surveying people, which like has its own complications. Like it's not that it's helpful, but it's like not the breakthrough innovations that I think will like dramatically uplift the function and help people achieve their goals. Like if your goal is to get everyone in the organization feeling and performing at their best, you don't have a big toolkit to make that happen today. That's my general feeling. And so I think with AI, we're finally going to be able to do that. There's a reason why it's still very people-centric in terms of on the solution side, Mento included historically, because the technology hasn't been there to deliver behavior change, deliver transformation, to deliver skills development on the scales that companies need in order to be successful and for HR people to be, achieve their dreams and ambitions within their function, within their roles.
It's funny you brought up the innovation and optimization, and I was coaching a client not too long ago. Not coaching, we were kind of trying to figure out if we were going to work together, and they wanted help with their innovation project. And I said, okay, well, cool. Tell me about the innovation. And the more they started explaining it, I said, okay, that's not innovation, that's optimization. Because innovation should answer the question, what are you creating? And I said, you're not creating anything, you're making something better, faster, more efficient. So I think even the terminology, like it's in some pockets, it's used so interchangeably in the wrong way that, there needs to be some very clear definition on the front end of what is what. And, let's talk a little bit about Mento, because I think, what you all are trying to solve is amazing. And then, we can kind of switch into some of the other questions I have about behavioral change and everything that you alluded to.
The big question.
Just, the fun stuff, the sexy stuff, as I like to call it. So just tell everyone, what does Mento do?
Great question. Mento, we help people, as I was saying before, feel and perform their best at work. We're very focused on performance at work. We do that through an 80-20 coaching and mentorship methodology. And we deliver that through humans and AI. So the human front, the way that we deliver this is, and I'll first start with what is 80-20. Why does this matter? 80% coaching, 20% mentorship. Our view on the world and what we saw from our own experience is that coaching helps you think and mentorship helps you do. And in the modern world where things are very fast paced, ever changing, everyone's constantly climbing the mountain, rolling the ball up the hill, dealing in deep unknowns. This idea of traditional coaching that we all just have the answer from within, if only someone just pulled it out of us, I don't think is fair in today's world of work. I think that learning and getting help actually applying and figuring out how to apply a concept, take an idea that you have, take a behavior change that you want, and learn from someone who's been there before to help you actually implement it is an incredible way to help people and help drive change and behavior and teach someone how to do something. Like, I wish I knew how to do everything. Not everything is easily findable on the internet. And by the way, we all are dealing with complexities of people and businesses and organizations, which are dynamic beings. And so being able to get that context, what's going on, what are the unique challenges, what are the unique dynamics, and help someone actually apply and make that change or implement something is so helpful for people. So that's why we bring it together. The reason why we're able to do this is because all of our coaches are operators. So they are world-class leaders from the top organizations. We have product managers that have worked at Salesforce and Google and fill in the blank, to operations leaders at startups, a former CTO of Betterment, you name it. We support a bunch of different functions. We support across all these different industries. And we actually do, which is very antithetical to other coaching platforms, but we actually do hand matching, human matching. So, and the reason why we do that is because a great coach member match is based on experiences, not just on your resume or just not on your most recent title or whatever it might be. And so we're able to deliver a much better coaching experience at scale. And so that's a big thing. And then now what we're working on is bringing this coaching experience, this coaching product into to everyone. As you know, coaching, usually at max supports about 10% of an organization at any given time. That's very rarely every manager. That's very rarely every leader. And that's about 90% of the rest of the company that is under supported and under resourced in some way, shape, or form. On top of that, coaching is is weekly, maybe, but usually it's every other week, and it's usually only for a certain period of time. There's a lot of stuff that happens in between 2 weeks. There's also a lot of behavior change that can be done between. But I think this idea that, and helping people implement the behavior change, the actions, the desired behaviors, I think people are very well intended. It's just there's simply too much on everyone's plate to be a great manager, a great leader, a great IC, all these things that we need to do at all the time. It's just simply not feasible. We're only human at the end of the day. And so that's why we're bringing together human and AI to deliver this to people all the time where they work, and to scale that across the organization. And I think what's most exciting about this is, and this is kind of ties back into your earlier question of how HR is going to change. Imagine, I'll turn the switch back to you. What would you do if you could give everyone high quality, deeply personalized and customized coaching and support all the time? What do you think that would unlock for an organization?
It'd be, you forgot whenever you were going through the, kind of the top 10% are usually the ones that get it. Get the mentoring and the coaching and all this investment. But I would even say that probably 80% of the time, they're not the ones that need it the most. It's the ones that are underserved that are really creating a drag on your organization. So I think, I love the approach and, how you all are using AI to kind of say, hey, how do we get even deeper in the organization? Because I think that's where a lot of the root cause of the top 10% are dealing with. The problems start with managers that just need more investment. But to your point, there's only so much that can go around, So how are you guys leveraging technology to be able to solve that problem there?
Yeah. So we're starting, so we've had a really interesting journey. It's a question that a lot of people are asking, and if you're working on a historically human services business, it's a question that a lot of people are asking. And, because we know people don't scale at the end of the day. We're seeing it all around. We started out taking a pretty standard coaching approach. And we found that just didn't have the impact, and we really weren't able to apply our 80-20 methodology of, again, coaching and mentorship. These two things together is where the magic happens. It's not one, it's not the other, it's not separate, it's together. And so then we started with sort of a coaching approach, and we just felt like that's not it. That's not where the power is. And there's no context. I think we also didn't want to create. We're also I think something to say is that we're a very deeply human business at the end of the day. We deeply believe in the power of people to help drive transformation. And so we ended up taking a very different route, and we see what we're building in the coaching, in the AI space, as very complementary and supportive. Can be used with a human coach or without. But we're not trying to replicate a person. Because people are deeply unique and cannot be replicated in most senses, right? Maybe some of the tasks, but we're not trying to create an experience where I'm speaking to a coach, but they're like an AI coach. It's not quite the same, right? So where we're starting is what we realized is that if we want to help mentor people, and we also want to think about how AI can support people in ways that humans can't, even if you could have a coach every day. A coach can't sit with you where you work. They're not going to join all your meetings. They're not going to be in your Slack. It's not happening. And this is where technology has enormous power. And so we're starting with an AI Slack coach, AI-powered Slack coach. It sits with you in Slack. And it's an assistant that supports you. It's your thought partner, your editor-in-chief, your assistant. And the beauty of it is that it's deeply contextualized. It sees what you see. So you can do something like, hey, can you take a look at my last message and see what you think about this? Like, what do you think about that tone? Did you think I communicated that message effectively? Okay, cool. How might you do it a little differently? Just like you would a coach, but now they can actually see it. And instead of going, well,
Right.
I told Bob this, and he reacted like that, and he kind of it's
He
like it's a less of like
overreacted, but yeah, and you're
yeah,
not
it's a
getting
less
the
of
full
he said
story.
she said thing exactly, and like we're all deeply biased people, like we
Hmm.
carry those. It's hard not to put our own lens and view on it. And so you could also imagine how this would tie back very nicely into coaching, into human coaching as well. We can do things like, hey, what are some great based on my chat history, what are some good one-on-one topics? Hey, this is a difficult conversation. Like, can I get some coaching around this? Or I'm feeling frustrated. Like, that was really annoying. And I just want to like quickly talk about that and get it off my chest. You said before, you go outside for 45. Now you
Yeah,
can go outside, but like have a super quick little session to cool
yeah.
down and just say, and then come up with next steps. And these are the things, this is really where behavior change can take place, because it's helping you make that change in the moment. And it's taking a lot of that burden off of you to figure that out. So, Matt, how many times have you just like left a Slack message unread? How many times have you, started a draft, redrafted? How many times have you just ignored something because you're like, I kind of can't deal with this right now? How many times have you, it's like we can go on and on about basically the toll of work. And what if you could increase your toll of work, make it much easier, more joyful, and you could just be better? Like you could just be operating better more often. And there is like a reward in that. That's something that I can personally say. I mean, I've been using this for a few months now, and I feel that I truly feel that it's transformed how I communicate, my ease that I feel with communications, my leadership. It has this it's had this huge ripple effect. And um it's really incredible. These are the things. It's like, hey, I could know to do something, I could talk about doing, I can implement it here and there, but it's really enabling you to do it. And then also it does a lot of the work for you, which is just such a joy.
So, so what you're saying is that this coach kind of sits in your Slack, and let's say you and I work together, and there's some coaching that I need to have with you. Like, kind of walk me through what would I go and ask this AI coach?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess let's can we do like a live,
Absolutely.
what's one thing you're working on right now?
Gosh, right now I am working on we're building out an AI university, so that way we are reskilling all of our team members to be
Wow.
AI native technologists. There we go.
Wow.
ANT.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's really hard about that?
Change. It's you can't really. We are doing kind of three. I call them three pillars. So you have education, which is normal L&D type of stuff. Exposure that we're going to do through like hackathons, labs, working on special gig projects. And then the actual experience, because a lot of clients, believe it or not, well, I'm sure you know this, but whatever people start talking about technology and they're like, oh, everybody's going to AI. They're not. They're not. They're still coding their systems the same way that they've been coding them for the last 3 or 4 years. They're considering
Yeah.
how to use AI. So,
Yeah. It's
for
so interesting.
our team members, what do we do to get them ready for when we have that AI project, that they've got the exposure, the education to be able to gain that experience? So it's a very, very it's like a Rubik's cube, because it's like as soon as I get everything lined up, I'm like, damn it, I gotta consider this over here.
Mm. And so who do you talk to about this? Like, who's your day-to-day collaborator on this? Or like when you get stuck, who do you talk to?
Yeah. Well, I am tied at the hip with our head of engineering and our CTO. So our CTO handles kind of the strategy. Of course, engineering, the head of engineering's got all of our software delivery people in there, and both of them are incredible. They complement each other so well.
That's beautiful.
So I just kind of look at, okay, this is what we need to do tactically. This is how we can deploy it. So it's they're handling the strategy and the content. I'm more about how do we get this out? How do we leverage this? How do we democratize this
Yeah.
and make it readily available? And then
Yeah.
also on the back end, make sure that people are actually doing it, you know?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, at the highest level, I hear a few things, which is of how you could work with your AI coach. One, you're the only L&D HR person, so you're solo patrol on that. So, who, which is very common. Most people, a lot of people are in their own
Yeah.
function. At the end of the day, team of one. A lot of people are teams of one in one way, shape, or form. Even if you have, more peers, they're not working with you. They're busy with their own stuff. So, okay, maybe some of these questions that you talk about, you're like, I'm stuck. Okay, let me go to my AI coach. Maybe there's something that I want to reference. Maybe I say, hey, I'm stuck. Like, maybe you're in a Slack group, right? You're saying, hey, I'm stuck with this. Like this last question that our head of engineering asked me about how we might deploy this successfully. And you're like, oh God, not really sure. Or I have some ideas, but I just want to like chat it out. Okay, that's a great moment to pull up your Slack assist, Slack AI, your Mento AI coach, and start chatting away and being like, hey, I'm stuck. What do you think? Right? Hey, what do you think about this? Okay, I just need to think through this. That could be one example. Another example could be, I'm sure in some of these comms of these messages that you're writing out, you're going to be working very hard on those because messaging is everything in these moments. And so it's one of those kind of like invisible pieces of work that's going to take up a bunch of your time because you want to make sure people are happy about it and that people are excited and that people enroll and that people do it, right? And you're going to need to doing that regularly throughout. Something you can do, of course, but, and you might run it by your head of engineering or someone like that. Someone will give you a second set of eyes, but like they're busy. It's like, okay, that's all going to just take you so much time. As you would a coach, and especially a Mento coach who has experience, maybe your Mento coach is someone that's like been in L&D before and has rolled out a similar program. You would talk to them about it and be like, hey, what's the right messaging? Okay, you don't have that. So now, or maybe you're not going to see them for another 2 weeks and you got to do this now. So maybe that's something you talk about with your Mento AI coach, or like, hey, can you review this draft? Or like, can you help me think through the organization of this? And then, okay, can you write it for me? Like, there's so much that you can do that brings together sort of help me think through this and help me do. And then I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions that come in of people being maybe upset about this or saying, hey, I don't have time and this is another thing, or how do I communicate this to my team? So, right, there's all of these things that are sort of downstream that we all could use a little coaching and support around, not to mention the long-term, this is just sort of tactically, right? Not to mention the long-term transformation or the long-term support that you might want around maybe there's a skill in here that you want to develop or grow, or maybe this is an opportunity for you to be leading at a certain level. I mean, I know you lead at the top levels of your company just from our previous conversations, but I'm sure there's things that that you think you could work on that this would be a great opportunity to just get some help on. And so now you're just sort of like getting better in the flow of work as you work without even having to think that hard about it. So that's kind of the beauty of it.
And it's funny because I do that. I did this personally. Let me just clarify. I don't do this at work.
Yeah.
But personally, people, I'm pretty blunt. You ask me a question, I'm just going to tell you the answer. I do consider people's feelings, but sometimes if I'm tired, I don't. But I had a family member that texted something, and I knew that they wanted a response, but I just did not have it in me. Like I was thinking, well, maybe I could say this. No, I don't want to say this. No, if I write this and they'll know that I don't really mean it because I'm normally blunt. So I kid you not, I copied the text, put it into an AI, and I said, I need you to
Yes.
craft a blunt but empathetic response to
Yes.
this that includes points 1, 2, and 3. Copied it
Yes.
and paste the text back, and they go, thank you so much for taking the time to answer it. And the content was still mine, but the packaging was totally AI. And so fast forward like 2 weeks, somebody in our friend group, they were talking about AI. It doesn't help you with a human. I'm like,
Yes, it does.
actually, AI makes me seem more human.
Yes, in fact.
So,
Right, and
right.
imagine,
So,
and I hear that example all the time, by the way. You're not, when
hmm
people like, this is kind of how people are like getting into it, and then they're like, oh wow, that was really helpful. And by the way, it
yes.
feels good when you know that you communicated as you intended. You
hmm
communicated at your best, right? You showed up in the right way. Like, there is also a reward system around that, because you're like, it doesn't feel good when you're like, oh gosh, maybe I kind of like should have worded that a little bit better.
Yeah, I could have packaged that a little bit differently.
Right? Yeah, we all think that all the time, right? Like, we're like, conscious people. And it doesn't mean you're not a great communicator. It just also means that having a little help, not having to deal with the mental sort of, uh checkers of trying to make sure it's worded correctly and this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
And just that's a huge like beauty and burden that we're kind of like taking off our plates. Um, think about it for all, you're obviously a senior manager, you know what you're doing, but all the people that are new managers, like, think about how many
Right.
questions that they have. Think about, this is all new for them. We all remember when we were new managers, it's not easy. It's still not easy, even if you're a senior manager in most worlds, to give good feedback and remember to check in on people at the right time and see how the team is doing. Being a manager of managers, very complicated. Managing up, managing across, like leading. I mean, there's so much that we need to be good at. And for everyone, and
hmm
like, everyone has got stuff. And even if people are good at the tactics, the number one thing that I hear is, well, I don't have any time to think about the future because I'm so busy in the tactics. I can't think about transformation. I don't know what my blind spots are. Or I think I might know what my blind spots are, but I'm not working on them. It's just like, this is what, I don't have time to coach my team. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. It's like, well, what if all of this was off your plate and then you also got help? Like, I also get help coaching my team a lot from my Mento AI coach. I'll be like, hey, like, I think this person's like struggling a little bit, but like, I'm not sure. What should I say? How can I say it? Can you just talk me through it? It takes 5 minutes. This isn't like meant to be 20-hour conversations. And then I leave 5 minutes and I'm like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to say. I have my talking points for my one-on-one. I'm going to send, my AI coach has drafted me a message that I'm going to send to just let them know for a check-in. I know exactly what I want to say, so I don't like end up saying something I didn't mean to or whatever. I don't unintentionally hurt someone's feelings by maybe saying something I didn't exactly mean or didn't come across the right way. Like, anyone can say what they want. No one likes feedback. Like, no,
Right.
no one, not a soul,
Right.
right? So, like, these are just the things that are hard, but like, this is what we need to do. And then in the future, like, that's even where I'm more excited. This is going to be like an entire system for workplace AI that helps you, that does things for you, that helps you get ahead of things, that analyzes for you, that gives you data and insights. That's an extension of you as a manager. I mean, the future is going to be absolutely wild as well. This is like just
Yeah.
scratching the surface.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because I kind of see HR getting into where it's managing more agents than it is actual HR business partners. Because the I've worked for large organizations that had a lot of HR business partners, but we kind of had this formula for every X number of employees, you needed an HR business partner because they needed to be
Yes.
able to handle basic ER things, questions, facilitation, handling the transformation. Now you can do that at scale with so few people and do it 10 times better because all of the mundane stuff that would bog down that HR business partner, who, by the way, was making probably average $75,000, there's such economies there. There's so much more efficacy that can be done leveraging a product like yours. even going so far as, I mean, I have at work done this because I love DISC, I love strength finders. We use Plum
Mm-hmm.
IO as an assessment. So I can go into that knowledge base and say, hey, I'm going to be talking with Jamie. She is a high I on DISC followed by S. Here's the scenario. Here's the rub that I've got. How do I communicate this to her in a way that she will understand, that she will feel communicated to?
Exactly.
And to me, you asked how would that transform? If I'm communicating to you and I'm coaching you in a way that you naturally understand and communicate, and that I'm speaking your language, you're going to take it a lot more. It's going to be a lot more impactful. You're not going to
Absolutely.
have to try to think, okay, well, what did he mean by this? What did he mean by that? Because
Yeah.
I'm leveraging AI to give me the coaching. And
Yeah.
I know whenever you showed me the product, you showed me a couple of different things like
Yeah.
there, it's how many
Yeah.
times do I just want to go, how should I respond to this? Or, to have something just real quick in the tool. I think that's the thing that I want everyone to hear. This is in a tool, a messaging tool that you're using every day. It's not like I have to go and upload or get an app or do anything else like this. You built this to sit in something that communicates with every employee every day.
Yes, exactly. And that's where it's also going to get really exciting as well, is because surveys, right? Surveys are point in time. They're moment in time. And hey, we do surveys, we do pulse surveys for our coaching business, right? To see how people are doing baseline and then after every 6 sessions. Sometimes we'll see a score and we're like, oh my God, is something going on? Like, right? Did something happen to a person? What's going on? A coach will reach out or something like that. And the people will be like, oh, I didn't even remember what I said. Oh, yeah, you're right. I just came out of a really bad meeting, but like I'm totally fine, right? Like that is not, like surveys are imperfect, like they are important, but they're very recency bias. There's all these things. Imagine what happens when you have a tool that's for just for you, right? It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it's deeply customized at the organization level, an HR level, a team level, but at the end of the day, it's for you. And so it knows you, it knows your web of relationships, your conversations, right? It sees what you see so that it can help you, because we move so fast. Like by the time Friday comes, I'm like, what happened on Monday? Like I don't
Exactly.
remember because so much has happened. Like, and that's not like, that's like, in some ways it's a little problematic because so much is happening all the time. It's impossible to keep track of. There's maybe something really important happened on Monday that would actually be great to have someone remind you of for your one-on-one with that
Right.
person, if you in the next Monday. But like, I'm not going to remember that. There's just no way. So it gives you tools to be able to remember, but then it knows you, it knows your relationship. So it can give you customized advice, not just based on who the person is, but what's going on for you all based on your dynamic and your relationships and what's going on in the broader context of the organization or the business. And that's going to give you such better advice and better support to take the right action that's aligned to the business, that's aligned to you, that's aligned to your team, that's aligned to your manager. Taking all these things into account as humans is just like basically impossible. There's just simply
Mm-hmm.
too much going on. And I don't even know if I don't even know how you're like anyone can be really good at that, at the pace and the
You're not.
rapidity of communication and the responsiveness. Like it's just impossible. Like
It
it's
is.
insane, right? To think that you go to a training, learn a framework, and then be able to apply it to your specific situation is insane. And I think that is a thing that we're going to look back on and be like, that was so silly. It doesn't mean you don't get together in person, and trainings don't have like other benefits of like social and community and belonging. But I think that's an effective way to help people learn and develop and grow at work, I just think is like completely unrealistic. And to back to my original point, this is where I think we're going to head into the golden age of HR. So imagine what you all can be doing with tools like this at your fingertips. It's going to radically change how you can support and impact an organization. Just right now, the tools are just not great. It might not change a lot of the strategies, but it can change the execution a ton.
I don't know. I think it could change the
Yeah.
strategy too,
Yeah.
because the I mean, I'm lucky I came from the business side, so I like numbers, always have liked numbers.
Yeah.
So the data analysis is usually
Yeah.
somewhere that I'll get lost in, just trying to pull the thread of the data. Not a lot of HR people enjoy doing that, and they haven't had the tools to be able to really go in there and do analysis that they trust to be able to make recommendations on a strategy that could be executed on.
Yes.
Case in point, the other day I was doing some work, just kind of looking at, actually, I was looking at our organization, all the plum assessments, kind of like as an organization, what's our top traits and all that. And so I'm sitting there and I've got all the information in this tab, and then I'm creating this lookup, all index, all this formula. And I was about 10 minutes into it. And I go, why am I doing this? And so I downloaded it, put it into, our AI, and I said, hey, give me the top 3 traits of the organization, and now do it by department. 30 seconds. 30 seconds it took versus me, and I'm pretty good in Google Sheets. I mean, I can write a hell of a formula. Yeah, but it had, and I was able to have this conversation and go, okay, well, if I need the organization to have more like this, where's our leadership team set? If I designated these people as up and coming leaders, what does theirs look like? Like, I spent more time really understanding the data without having to process the data. And so I think, to your point, this is going to be the golden age of HR, because I've got agents that can go and do all this data analysis. Now I can turn around and say, hey, based on this and based on the forecast, I can give you a strategy I feel pretty damn good about. So I love this. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very reactive. And it's funny you kind of bring that part up. So, because one of the questions, as you're going through and you're detailing all of this, um, I would love to have that kind of an AI bot sitting in something that everyone uses more than email, Slack, but on the back end, be able to kind of have something that, as a people person, I could say, how's the organization doing? Do some sentiment analysis this week over last week, this month over last month, and just, not getting into the conversations, not violating anybody's privacy, even though it sits on a company platform, but nonetheless, be able to say, hey, the sentiment analysis is saying that our teams are not getting along or they're under a lot of stress, and be able to have it in real time. That would be mind blowing. I say that I want that, but Jamie, I think I would lose so many hours getting into that kind of a day, because I love to understand how people's brains work, um, so I think that would be transformational, and that, in my mind, that would make a tool like Slack a hell of a lot more valuable as from an organization standpoint. So why don't we move into, before we get into the kind of the rapid fire, if someone is interested in Mento and learning more, how do they find out more information? Well, I love the disagreement, though. I really enjoyed those kinds of conversations because if you can overcome that, then it just moves us even more. So, all right, and I will put all of your contact and Mento's contact in the show notes so that way everybody can reach out to you. And I will testify to that anytime I have pinged her with a random ass question, she's very quick to respond. So she's not lying. All right, so let's go to the rapid fire. What is one? Let's try that again. I thought I turned off all of my notifications. All right, what is one book that changed your perspective on business or HR? It's fun. Well, that's the next one. So we'll talk about what's your favorite podcast or series and why. No, I'm a weirdo. I listen to podcasts and YouTube things in the gym. Like I'm a weirdo. I love that. Very cool. Very cool. So it's called the Knowledge Project. All right, I have to. Okay. A lay person. Yeah. And it, yeah. And there are so many times I go, that sounds so interesting. And I'll have to check that out because I enjoy someone that can take something very complicated and I guess dumb it down for someone like me because I'd love to get in there and tinker around. Like I played with Claude of building an app and I was like, this is so easy. Like why have I like it was a mental block. So I'll have to definitely check those two out. All right, so last one is I always like to give the guest an opportunity to do a mic drop comment. So if you had to tie everything up in a bow and give the listener like that push to elevate themselves, evolve, transform, whatever the fun verb is, what would be that mic drop moment for you? Right. Oh yeah, I love that. I am my own CEO. It's a great way to reframe things. So Jamie, thank you so much. I knew that we would have a fantastic conversation and you definitely did not let me down. So I really appreciate it. And I encourage everyone to check out Mento, check out Jamie, and catch us for the next episode. Jamie, thank you again. And that is a wrap on another episode of The Human Capitalist. Thank you so much for choosing to tune in and invest your time with me today. You know, I hope that you walked away with some valuable insights and actionable strategies that you can maximize your greatest asset, and that's you. But hey, before you go, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so that way you can stay in the know. The Human Capitalist movement begins with you. If you have some feedback, feel free to leave it. I'll read every comment. I want to make sure that the content that I am delivering is what you want to hear. If you want to connect further, you can find me at my link down below. I'd love to hear from you and continue this awesome conversation. Well, this is Trent Cotton, your human capitalist, and I'm going to sign off. But remember, invest in yourself, own your potential, and keep building your human capital.